The world order is shifting, and with it, the rhetoric of diplomacy and power. Old alliances are being redefined. New rivalries are emerging, and the way nations speak about one another is revolving in real time. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the complex relationship between the United States, Russia, and Europe. As the US recalibrates its global strategy under Donald Trump's return to the White House, Russia is adjusting its tone, while Europe is scrambling to secure its future. For years, Russian officials and state media have relied on two familiar phrases when criticizing geopolitical rivals: the collective West, a dismissive term for the US and Europe, and the Anglo-Saxons, a phrase reserved for Washington and London as Russia's primary adversaries. But recently, these terms have started to fade. In their place, something unexpected has emerged. The Trump administration has halted military aid to Ukraine, sending shockwaves through Kiev and its European allies. At the United Nations, the US even sided with Russia, North Korea, and Belarus in voting against a resolution that identified Russia as the aggressor in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov reinforced this shift, stating on national television, America's new foreign policy configurations are largely aligned with Russia. But as the US and Russia explore possibility of mending ties, one key question looms. Where does this leave Europe? As Washington steps back from its traditional allies, Europe is left exposed. The continent, long reliant on American military backing, now faces a harsh new reality. It may have to defend itself without US support. In response, European leaders have convened in an emergency defense summit in Brussels to determine the future of the continent's security. At the forefront of the discussions is French President Emmanuel Macron, who has positioned himself as the driving force behind Europe's call for military self-sufficiency. Europe must prepare for all scenarios, he declared. We can no longer afford to depend solely on the United
Russia
States.
has become a threat to France and Europe. I want to believe that the US will stand by us, but we have to be ready if this is not the case. Whether or not peace in Ukraine is achieved quickly, Europe must be able to defend itself better and deter any further aggression.
France has already put forward a comprehensive peace plan for Ukraine, which Macron defended during a recent visit to Washington. To further reinforce Europe's military preparedness, he has announced a high-level defense summit in Paris next week, where military chiefs will map out next steps.
A stronger partner to do more in defense and security for the continent, and as well to be a reliable partner and to be engaged on trade, economy, investment in a lot of topics. So I'm very excited by the discussion we will have, and obviously we will follow. And I want to thank you again, Mr. President, for your presence for Notre-Dame de Paris. It meant a lot for French people, and I want to thank you for that.
Poland and the Baltic states have welcomed the proposal, seeing it as a crucial deterrent against potential Russian aggression. Moscow, however, has issued a stern warning, calling the move provocative and confrontational. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also declared that any European military deployment in Ukraine will be seen as an act of war by NATO against Russia.
Says that nuclear weapons need to be used and prepares to use nuclear weapons against Russia. This is certainly a threat.
As European leaders strategize, one of the most contentious issues on the table is whether to seize an estimated 200 billion euros in frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine's defense. Some European nations argue that if international law allows it, those assets should be used to support Kiev. Germany, traditionally hesitant about military spending, is now considering a constitutional amendment to increase defense investments, a major policy shift for Berlin. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, a close ally of Vladimir Putin, has threatened to block EU funding for Ukraine. He argues that Europe should negotiate directly with Moscow rather than escalate tensions.
We have the so-called national consultation scheme, which we use regularly to collect the opinion of the people, so we will use the same scheme just now.
These internal divisions raises a critical question. Can the EU unite in its military ambitions, Or will political disagreement weaken its defense strategy? As these debates unfold in Europe, Russia is also navigating the shifting landscape with caution. Unlike 2016, when some Russian media outlets enthusiastically referred to Donald Trump as our Donald, this time there is no such warmth. Moscow appears to be waiting, uncertain whether Trump's policies will truly align with its interests. This uncertainty reflects a broader reality. The world is in flux. Europe, once a key beneficiary of US security, now faces a future where it may have to stand alone. The choices made in Brussels this week will shape Europe's military strategies for decades to come. One European defense strategist bluntly put it, "We are not political dwarfs. The EU's economy is half the size of the US and bigger than Russia's. It's time we start acting like the military power we truly are." The world is watching. The stakes couldn't be higher. Global alliances are shifting. The world is taking a new shape. Ephraim Agbo, reporting for Pop TV.
People of the Fountain.